All right, so if you have a look over here, we've got the white chanterelle, and they often, you'll find them hiding. They'll get really big pretty quick. And if I reach down here, that one's actually not too bad. You'll see they get really, really big, but they've also got the decurrent folds there. And you'll often find great big collections of them. So I've got one here, and if we pull over here, you can see some here. Now they're getting pretty saturated because of the rain, but that's a nice size guy as well. When they get this big, you might mistake them for a russula, unless you start looking at those decurrent folds, but they are a good collection there. That one, I think some of that one's gonna stay here in the forest. These are some of my favorite for just in food, but also when they get big like this, maybe a little waterlogged, they dehydrate great and turn into an amazing powder, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the kitchen. All right, white chanterelles. I have got a big platter of white chanterelles here, and I often find them a little bit mature, especially late in the season. They're really big. They can get a little bit tattered on the edges. They're still great. They haven't got moldy. They haven't got any rot on them. They're just not as appealing as the younger golden ones here. If you can get the young, small white ones or in really good shape, use them exactly like you would with a chanterelle. They are just as tasty, and some people like them even more. In this particular case, these ones I think are a little bit past their prime. However, that does not mean they are at a loss. As long as they are good and in good quality, here's my favorite thing to do with them. Grab a whole bunch of them, slice them thin, and then throw them in the dehydrator. 1-2 centimeter thick slices, just like so. Just load up this dehydrator. You're going to dehydrate them at a nice low temperature. You can also do this in the stove if you want, preferably on the fan mode. Maybe keep it open a little bit, but if you have a dehydrator, even better. You want them until they're cracker crisp, so that they'll snap almost when you've got them. That's how you know you've got it done. Generally, I wouldn't recommend dehydrating chanterelles, as their texture changes a little bit, and they haven't got the same feel as you would when you're having them fresh, or even if you've frozen them and preserved them. However, in this case, we are going to powder them, and a chanterelle powder makes an amazing rub. In addition to an amazing rub, it also makes a really easy way of getting a giant umami boost into your recipes. You can throw them into soups, stews, sauces, and things like that. And these huge tray, sheet pan of chanterelles, you'll be amazed as to how far they dehydrate down and how small they can become once they have become turned into a powder. Once you've got your trays all loaded up, I've got 3 full trays here, just to show you how small these get after you dehydrate them. Pop them onto your American Harvest Snack Master, circa 1980, not a sponsor, and dehydrate them at low for 12 to 14 hours or until they're cracker crisp. Okay, next day, and our chanterelles are now dried and cracker crisp, and you can see that they have reduced significantly. This is super dry. Make sure you've got that crispy crumble, no moisture left in there, otherwise you're going to have moldy powder later on. But you have shrunk down the huge sheet pan full of chanterelles into almost nothing. Now, time to take them into the blender or food processor for powdering. And last little bit into the blender. Lid on, and just powder away. I'll play some grinding music for you. All right, once you've got a fine powder that you're happy with, let it settle for a little bit. Otherwise, you are going to get a face full of mushroom dust, which is you know, not always the worst thing. But you're left with this amazing, concentrated, oh, it smells unbelievable. So, get yourself a mason jar or something like that, and don't let any of that powdered gold go to waste. So you've taken that entire sheet pan full of white chanterelles and reduced it down to just half a small mason jar. However, you've also concentrated all that goodness and all that flavor into half a mason jar. So one little spoonful of this will go a long way into your soups, into your stews, into sauces. Add it to a mushroom gravy. Sprinkle it on toast and butter if you want, or turn it into the most incredible rub for steaks and roasts. Chanterelle rub. Get yourself 2 tablespoons of your chanterelle powder, 1 tablespoon of your flaky kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and about a half a teaspoon of dried sage. I conveniently ran out of dried sage just as I was filming this, so I've got about a teaspoon of chopped fresh sage here, will work just as well. They all go into a bowl. Mix it around in nice here to a nice combination, and oh, the smell is incredible. Get yourself a nice pork loin. I've got about a 2-pound, 1 kilo pork loin here, and you are just gonna take that rub all over and rub it onto every surface, onto a plate. Make sure you do not miss any sides. Get your fronts, your backs, tops and bottoms, and don't forget the ends. All right, get that coated all nicely all around. You'll have a little bit falling off, but you want a nice little crust of the chanterelle rub on top of it. Next, casserole pan with either a bed of leeks or a bed of onions in there with a couple lumps of butter. The pork loin is not really that fatty, so you want something to mix with it. And the pork loin goes right on top of that bed of onions. If there's any powder left over, make sure that all goes into the pan as well. The juices are going to come out of that, going to form a nice crust onto that loin, and any of the other juices are going to come down with this chanterelle infusion and mix in with your leeks or your onions, and you're going to have something beautiful to add to it on afterwards. So that goes into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes per pound, 20-25 minutes per pound, or until you get an internal temperature of 71 Celsius, and that'll be some number Fahrenheit. All right, that was about an hour. It took a little bit longer. It's a little thicker than I thought, but that roast is now beautiful and golden, and it's rested a little bit there. I've got the nice caramelized leeks there on the side. If you want to do a beef roast, you could sub out the sage with some rosemary or something like that, but this is ready for dinner. And just slice it. Make sure you get a nice chunk of that crust and rub there. It just smells so good. It's nice and juicy, and it's going to make a lovely dinner. For me, I am just going to take a nice slice of that, get a little spoon of some of that. Don't let any of that juice and the leeks go to waste. Oh yeah. Perfect.